I'm Jenny Delfini, Chair of the Summer Institute this year, and I'll be hosting along with Executive Director John Carlino. Also helping behind the scenes are the rest of our executive committee, Leslie Kudlick, Sally Barnes, Marissa Coulihan, and Valerie Greer. This session will be recorded. Please use the chat feature for questions as well as comments throughout. And additionally, if you're tweeting or posting on social media, include @NiceFelt and the hashtag NiceFeltSI, and Brenda's handle, our presenter, @Ms. Buckbuck, so we can share and see all of your thoughts. A special congratulations to our Summer Institute Scholarship winners this year, Leo Banjo, Marie Caju, Nora Diaz Guevara, Katie Jansante, and Yen Eli. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our presenter for this morning, Ms. Brenda Buckley. Brenda is an ASL American Sign Language teacher and has been teaching for 11 years in city school districts. She's taught pre-K through 12th as well as adult classes. And she's presented at multiple conferences and has a passion for building positive communities. This passion has driven her to start her own nonprofit Girls to Women group called I Am Me. Brenda is a nationally recognized Zumba instructor and jammer and is a Leaders of Tomorrow alum for NiceFelt. And I'm so excited to have her here today, and you are as well. Thank you for joining us, Brenda.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I was gonna tell you guys a little bit about me. Welcome, thank you guys for choosing this session today. I'm currently in my studio that I own, so this is my dance and fitness studio. So I have quite the setup here. So you'll see me looking down and up. I have you guys on a big screen, and I have all my information on the screen below. So if you're wondering why I'm going like this, I'm not saying yes, I'm just looking up and down. All right? Okay, so like Jenny said, I teach American Sign Language. I've been teaching in the city schools for it's 13 years now. My old bio, sorry, was 11 years. And I teach 9th through 12th grade, 12-1-1, community special ed, Twilight, which is a night school, and EDLP, which is credit recovery, and adults. So I teach a wide range of ages. I've been a technology coach, which I created my own online course that was years ago. So this pandemic was pretty easy for me when it came to the online stuff. And like she said, I have my own nonprofit organization called I Am Me, which is a building and supporting women's group. All right, so this is how the session's gonna go. Because there are a lot of people today, I'm gonna have 3 times where questions are going to be answered. Okay, so 3 times the questions are going to be answered. Anytime you have a question and it pops into your head, you can go ahead and write it in the chat. I have somebody collecting all the questions for me, and then I will answer them during my answer time, okay? So just wanna make sure that's clear. Awesome. Moving on. Okay, so today the biggest thing I want you to do, I want you to think about these things as we go through this session. My biggest thing working in city schools that I have learned is that you have to build a community before anything can happen. Before anything the learning process can start, before they want to fall in love with the language, anything like that. So here are some things I want you guys to think about. Or actually, in the chat, write yes or no. Do all your students volunteer? So in the chat, write yes or no. Do all, there's a kid, all your students volunteer. Let me get my chat up. Yes or no? I got a most in there. Yes or no? Okay. All right, do all of your students encourage each other? Yes or no? Do all your students give, take peer feedback without you asking? So they help each other. Do they go back and forth? So yes or no? Just yes or no? Yes or no? The keyword is all, guys. Yes or no? There we go. Okay. Do all of your students work with everyone in class? All of your students work well with everyone in class. Wow, the amount of no's that are blowing up right now is insane. Do all your students want to lead the class? Ooh, I saw a yes. Okay, so these are my questions I ask all the time to myself every single year. And my goal is for all of my students to do all of these. Not most, not sometimes, not some. My goal is all. And in order for that to happen, I have to build my community. And I have to start with that first before I tap into the language, all right? Working with students with the language, there's a lot of partner work, group work. There's a lot more going on than independent work, especially in my classroom with American Sign Language, because we don't have any written form of the language. So everything is done with another person. And I'm sure for you guys as well, the accents are different, right? Depending on the different countries or just the way people talk. Some people are slower, some people are faster. So it's good for them to work with multiple people. Same thing in the American Sign Language world. Some people have, you know, long skinny fingers, stubby fingers. Some sign really slow. The generational signs are a little different. You know, there's slang, everything. So my biggest thing for me is all. And I can say that that does happen once I start to build a community. As soon as that moment gets pulled back and I have answered no, then I reassess everything that I've been doing, which I will show you the things I've been doing, and then we start over again because I need to go back to what's considered my norm. All right. So what are some of your goals? We're going to be talking about that and thinking about these things as we go through this session. So you cannot reach a goal if you cannot fix a current cultural issue in your classroom. So write down just for yourself right now. And I want to emphasize that this session and workshop is normally done without the pandemic. So there's going to be a lot of things where you'll see that people are interacting more and there's not the 6 feet rule, but we're going to talk about how to change all that. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. So a lot of this will be about what it will look like going back into the classroom. So what is the issue? What is the current, you have to think the cultural issue, your class culture, all right? What is the issue there and what are you lacking? So just take a moment to write that down for yourself. Awesome. All right. Okay, so we're gonna talk about teenagers right now, right? Let's talk teenagers. So in general, it doesn't matter if they're urban, suburban, from the country-ish area, whatever. They have a fear of being judged from their peers, from teachers, from anybody, right? They're afraid of failure. That's a huge thing. They're afraid of being corrected by their peers, and they do not self-reflect. So they are never sitting back and thinking about like what it is they could do to improve themselves. It's so crazy, it's so quiet with this virtual stuff. It's like dead silent. All right, so the thing is, it all starts with you, okay? So you have the ultimate power to reach your set direction with your students. Your culture in your class reflects on what you do as a teacher and how you need to stop and reassess, okay? I would always say pushing forward all the time, even when things are ugly, is not a good thing, all right? People are not going to retain the information that even if you're pushing right through. I'm always content with not finishing a curriculum. I know that some people are really pressured to do that, but I feel that my students do a lot better on their exams and everything when they really know enough about certain topics compared to just a tiny bit of everything. There are many things you cannot control, but you can have the power over the situation and adjust accordingly to move closer to your destination. So we're going to talk about mindset. So changing your mindset has to then you change your students' mindset, and we'll talk about classroom mindset and school culture and culture class mindset. All right, so I just want, let's get some blue hands here. If you guys are familiar with the fixed mindset and growth mindset, put a blue hand up in my chat. All right. Okay, so just kind of quickly going to, you'll see that the fixed mindset, they always avoid the challenges. They give up on the obstacles. Their effort is no point if they just feel like they just can't achieve it, and they kind of turn away from criticism, and they feel threatened by success of others. This is a huge thing in the city schools. We have a lot of issues with students just giving up right away, really fast on anything and everything. So I just want to scroll through my screens right here to see how many blue hands I have. Okay. All right, so the growth mindset, challenges, they embrace it. They, are willing to go through with the obstacles. They want to work hard and put effort into everything. They like the constructive feedback, and they celebrate success for others. So the biggest thing that I do in my first couple weeks of school, our schedules are a hot mess. Okay, so they're all over the place. Kids are coming in and out. I don't bother teaching the language for 3 weeks because that's how insane we have a large district. And I talk about mindset, and we go into these different things, and I do a lot of community building activities and get them in the right frame of mind, and then I continue this throughout the rest of the year. Last year was so insane. We got our schedules like the morning of, that I literally was like, we're gonna play Uno. Hey, groups of Uno everywhere. And it was perfect for the freshmen because they don't know anybody, but everyone knows how to play Uno. So they were a lot more comfortable and laughing with each other, and so that was awesome. All right, so some things I want you guys to think about huge. You have to give up the need for control. You have to give up the need for control in your classroom. I know sometimes it's like a little insane, and you may feel that you're not accomplishing anything, but you'll be really surprised like how much you are actually accomplishing. So you must believe in your students' capacity to lead. So the majority of the time, I let my students lead. I let them volunteer to come up to lead. I pick somebody randomly to come up to lead. I have such a routine in my classroom of how I teach new things that the students are familiar with how to teach the way that I do, even if they do not know the content. Okay, they do not need to know the content to teach in my class. There's like certain phrases that they can ask the students, and then they can also see what the other students are responding and giving them that information. They're learning as well. So it's like a give and take. So the person running my class is not always the person that knows all the content either. So you have to have faith, trust, and confidence. All right, we're gonna take about 5 minutes. I want you to, Jenny's gonna put into the chat group this website for you guys. You are going to click on that website and you will see this. What is my mindset? What's my students' motivational challenge level? What's my classroom mindset? And what's my school mindset? So we're gonna talk about those things. So you go ahead and click on it. They're quick little easy quizzes. And when you completed them, please write done in the chat. All right, now that I see some people are done, I want you guys to write into the chat if they were all the same. Was your mindset the same for every single one? Is your mindset the same for your class, your school, and your personal one? I can tell you right now, my mindset and my classroom mindset is the same. My school mindset is not. As soon as I walk out of my classroom, there's a whole nother world happening, and my mood and my mindset is completely different. And things to think about year to year, it's always different. For us, we get so much change happening in the administration and things that happen in the middle of the year. That's why my mindset in the school is so different, because we are such a large district. There's not a lot of consistency. I understand if you're in a small school, then it might be the same, which is phenomenal, but we're gonna talk about the differences. All right. Thank you for those of you that had put info in the chat for me. School different from personal, yes. Yes, Okay, so my biggest thing is I do a lot of self-reflecting. I do a lot of things about the mindset. I do a lot of reading about that information, and I usually take that stuff and feed it back into my students. This past year, absolutely, my school mindset was horrible, horrible. And that was a big thing that I had to work on myself, because when I was in my room, I was in my glory. As soon as I stepped out, I was miserable. And I really have to make sure that I push myself to get to the correct mindset for the school as well for the classroom, because I have noticed in the past that everything that I do outside of my classroom always helps me in my classroom as well. Like going out, walking through the hall, seeing the kids. And I will tell you, I am not the most perfect teacher out there. Everybody has their days, everybody has their moments, everybody has their years, but I can tell you the goals and the things that I have strived for and how they have helped me become a better teacher and my classroom culture. All right, so here is one of the effective effort rubrics that I use. I will put this in the folder as well too. I just made some changes last night because I went in like panic mode. But I'm gonna have that up for you. And I'll have this separately in the folder as well if you'd like to print it off and go over it with your students. We talk about the fix, the mix, and the growth. And throughout the year, I have a journal that the kids use, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And they reflect on all this stuff. So we talk about specific topics too, like do you have challenges with whatever we're doing, but classifiers? Like where do you feel that do you avoid using the classifiers? Are you trying to use them and you're working on them, getting better, or do you just you think you're really good with the classifiers right now and you enjoy using them? Okay, but I put this more in the wording of the language and getting them to kind of understand. In the curriculum and the topics that we're talking about, to get them to realize if they're a fixed, mix, or growth, and trying to work towards the growth mindset. Like I want everyone to be comfortable with using classifiers on a regular basis, because then it is one of the most important things in American Sign Language, all right? And if they are not comfortable with that, and I see on the reflection that they're still on a fix and a mix, then I'm gonna do some community building stuff around that to help get them a little bit more comfortable. All right, and kind of backing up a little bit. So starting your classroom culture is as simple as, how are you guys today? I start off my class in English. I don't dive into American Sign Language right away. I know they say go into 90% target language and everything, but I am a firm believer, if you do not have a relationship or rapport with your students, your classroom will not be successful and your kids will not do the work that you want them to do and enjoy it, okay? So I always start off with building that rapport right away. So as simple as, how are you guys today? How was your day yesterday? Who has something positive to share? Oh, there's always kids that have something to share, Can I share something awesome with you guys? Like sometimes I tell them things about me that happened and, or show them like little video clips or anything like that, because that's getting them to be more comfortable with who they are working with in the classroom. All right, and after all that, then I'll go right into the language. So I have specific times in my classroom where it's language time and not language time, and we'll talk about that. The purpose of team building activities is to motivate your students to work together, to develop their strengths and help improve each other's weaknesses. And team building exercise should encourage collaboration rather than competition. All students like to compete. They do like to compete, but even if it's a little competition, I still try to make it a whole collaboration. Here's some of the things that I do in my classroom. We're gonna be breaking all this down. I do timeouts, not like timeout, go in the corner. You were bad. Timeout, like, all right, timeout. Like something's wrong here, something's not working. What is it that we have to do? And the biggest thing in your class is the word we. What do you have to do? What do you have to do with students? What do we have to do, right? Because I'm part of this culture. I'm part of this community. So it has to be we. What is it that we can do? So you have to have a purpose for everything. I assign roles. Communication's key. We establish rules together, okay? And that's a huge thing. And I know sometimes everyone's like, oh, don't talk out of turn, don't whatever. But we go more in depth with all of that, right? We make like a little contract together, really going into it. recognize and reward, that is a huge thing. Own in mistakes. And when I say own mistakes, I mean literally on my end, owning my mistake. Or like, okay, guys, I call them teacher fails. Teacher fail, teacher fail, all right? I did X, Y, and Z. It needs to be corrected. That is my fault. I'm sorry. Let's start over. Or I'm sorry. Hey, does anybody else have a better idea of how to do this? Because clearly my brain's not working today. All right. And then that's where the class has control. Okay. The class has control then to be like, oh, I'm part of this team. I'm part of this culture, this community. And like, she's letting me, give me that control to come up with an activity, come up with a lesson. The majority of my games and activities that I have done have multiple versions because of my students. All right. Keeping a steady routine, like I said, so that helps the kids know when it's language time, when it's not language time, you know, how I teach. And I always putting up quotes everywhere, anywhere for them to see on a regular basis, even if it's just on the DIN and on the bottom of the DIN, just there, and shared agreements. We talked about that. Okay, so how I run my class. I have a sign it and write it. This is my DIN, sign it and write it. And the reason why I have a sign it and a write it is because my write it is not reflected towards the language. Okay, it's reflected towards my classroom culture. Okay, it can be reflective towards, you know, something that we're learning, something that I need to know about them too. And I just have a DIN sheet that they write on weekly. They submit it to me weekly, and I look at those. I have things like, I would have loved to brought up for you, but everything's on my school account, which we're not at school. But half of it is what they need to do for their DIN in American Sign Language. And the other half of it would be like a quote and how to reflect on it, or how does that make them feel, or what is it they think that means, because sometimes that's going to come back up in my classroom and I'm going to need to know like what they feel about it. And I really realized that like wording is key, because I even wrote just like one time, like, tell me something positive, right? And I got, your hair is pretty. You're a great teacher. And I was like, oh my gosh, I meant like, tell me something positive like about you that's happening, not like just give me compliments. So those are like things you have to think about. So then like I said before too, I talk about me, I talk about them. Even if I notice somebody did something in the hallway and I want to brag about it to the other students, you know, kind of showing that culture there too. Key phrases in my classroom, I have a living room. We have family meeting. That's usually when I'm like, time out, something's wrong. Or family meetings, like our culture's broken and people are nasty to each other. Like I had a fight that happened outside of my classroom that were two kids that were in the same class. And I was like, this is not gonna be pretty coming back in. So we had a family meeting, and my family meetings are in circles. All right, I do forced eye contact. It makes people uncomfortable in the beginning, but eventually they start to look up and then they kind of start gaining respect with each other, whether they realize it or not. And that helps. Circles help everything. I have Fun Day Friday, like I said, routine. So Fun Day Friday is usually some kind of game related activity, and I'll have choices. I'll have something specific, and I'll have whole group, I'll have little groups, whatever. The majority of the time I try to do whole group activities as much as I can, because that's keeping us all together and kids are working all together. So then when it comes to the time when they have to work, like I'm like, you have to go work with Joy. Like no choices, you gotta work with Joy. I usually don't get like, oh, I don't wanna go near her, I don't want this, I don't want whatever. Okay, because you know what, I've already worked with Joy, because we've always done like some big group thing. Voice off, those are the moments where it's like completely no voice, all ASL, and they self-evaluate themselves on a rubric for that too, okay? And I always do, I'm ready, you're ready. I run my class sometimes like an elementary classroom, and I'm teaching 9 through 12. If I need their attention, I need them to come back, I'm like, ready, and then they're all doing it, everyone sees each other, coming back. So that continues my flow of voice off. Roles of responsibilities are huge, and signing outside of class. So when I see kids signing outside of class, I give out tickets. I rarely grade anything, except for like an assessment. I give out tickets. So you complete something, you get a ticket. The goal at the end of the week is 10 tickets, right? So I say right at the end that whatever, some activities might be more than 10 tickets. So if activity is a little bit more rigorous, you know, and they know that they need to get those 10 tickets to get to the end, they can go and do that activity. And the purpose of this is so they can feel successful. They know that they need those 2 more tickets because they were absent and they're going to try the harder activity. And I'm not looking for them to be perfect, because mistakes are normal in a language, right? Mistakes happen all the time. We learn from mistakes. So the ticket thing has been a huge game changer in my classroom, and kids are now willing to try harder activities, try different things, push themselves more because they want those tickets. Attendance in our school is huge, and that's why a lot of my kids lose their tickets. They don't get all their tickets, and it gives them a way to still make up work, because giving them to bring work home, a lot of our students don't have technology or anything like that. And then if they do something to me in sign language, I mean, it gets to a point where I'm like, you can't just keep saying like, my name is this. It'll be like, okay, yeah, we're past that now. And I'll be like, you can't get a ticket until you do something like more spontaneous, more whatever. So if I just see them randomly in the hall, and I usually tell them like, remind me to give you a ticket, because I used to keep them on me, and then it was just getting to be too much. And they're pretty good, and they're pretty good about, they hold their own tickets. They do not, they're responsible for their own tickets. So if they lose them, then they don't get points. So that there's some responsibility right there too. Okay. Teacher fails, I talked about that. I facilitate a lot, and that was the thing I was saying, like when I need to back up and let the kids just kind of take control, they want to change something up in the game and they're still signing, I don't care, right? If they are done with an activity and they want to sign about what they did yesterday with their friends, I don't care, they're still signing. And that's a huge point. Like, did they complete the activity? I am looking for that. But after that, it's fine. Peer constructive feedback, I do that all the time with them, and I make them give each other feedback. But I make them give each other feedback in the exact same way that I give them feedback. So that way there's that routine, okay? Change of words, that's just something I say all the time. I deal with the F-bomb like every other word because I'm in the city schools. And so I, instead of like scolding or doing whatever, I'm like, change your words. And then they start to, and then sometimes it becomes like a new word becomes part of the culture in the classroom that the kids use to substitute it, like cupcake. I don't care. But it's helping build that more of a positive culture. High fives, I always give high fives when I see things that are awesome. I mean, that kids are doing, and I'm so excited. And obviously high fives now are not a thing, but you know, maybe some thumbs up on some Zoom or other things that they can see, or give them a shout out on the chat. I have everything that is settled in my classroom is through rock, paper, scissors. Everything. You have a disagreement, you want to do this, you want to do that, no one can make up their mind. Rock, paper, scissors. That's how we solve everything. And I have now what activities, which are extending, going above and beyond after they finish stuff, and celebrations, always a huge thing. Celebrating the success of your students. Even in the language, like in ASL, we do this, and I literally will go up to be like, oh. And you know, they get all excited and they're back with me, and it's just great. So I'm sure you guys have some phrases and everything that your students have. All right, so we are gonna go into questions. I'm gonna answer some questions now, because I know I gave you guys a lot of information. All right. I have Amber, come here. This is my coworker, Anna. She's helping me today. So we're just gonna let her wave. Oh, hey, Anna.
Hey, hi.
All right, so she was putting all the questions in for me. All right. Yes, you'll be receiving slides, and I will be putting some handouts in there too, and videos for you guys and other things. We're going to be collecting some stuff at the end together as well. And is it normal to have fixed mindset in certain contexts? Yes, it's completely normal to have different concepts or different mindsets. And that's what I was talking about before. you can have multiple different mindsets, but the goal is you really want to try to get them all to come together. And then whatever it is that you need to push yourself into that. So I'll put some information in about growth mindset and how to build a growth mindset, because I didn't see a lot of blue hands, but I didn't want to dive into that too much, but I can give you guys some material on that. My class sizes go from anywhere to 6 to 28 students. All right, it just depends on the type of class I have, the level, and I always have the family meeting. Someone asked if the family meeting. I always have the family meeting with my whole class. We are considered a family. It's got to be the whole class. Small groups are more for like mediation or something like that, but when we have a family meeting, that means there's a cultural issue and we need to fix it together. Any difference in tickets or response if they do it when they see you in the halls and jump into ASL? No, I just hand out one ticket for anything out in the halls. And like I said, the more rigorous of the activity, then the more tickets. I just choose whatever I want to give it and however, and the kids need a certain amount at the end. They can have over, and I'll give them extra credit if they have over the amount of tickets. My living room, okay. This year it didn't work out because of the virtual stuff, but the living room, I actually just have an area where it's nice and comfy for the students, and I'll let some of them go in there and they can sit in like regular, like not a desk or a chair, but like a comfy seat for a student. There's pillows, there's ottomans, there's rug, there's everything that you're not supposed to have for COVID, and sharing that kind of stuff, blankets. And then they can just get comfortable. Like they can, if they ask, a lot of them are really good about rotating and going in and out of the living room. And I do that for activities, and it gives them that more of a comfort home feeling. And then that way they're still like more relaxed and willing to participate in activities. And how many grades do I have a quarter? Do you find this drastically different than other departments, and does it affect conferences? Why no the grades? So the grades, actually every class is different, because sometimes depending on the culture, like just because it's level 1 doesn't mean they have all the same activities. Is it a pain in the butt to start to begin with and do all that stuff? Absolutely. But once you have like a set routine, and like I said, I've been teaching now for almost 13 years, and I don't always give the same assignment to the same class, even if it's the same level. It really just depends on the culture, and I run with that. Okay. And someone asked, how can you implement this into a class of 12? It's same way. Doesn't matter. Like I said, I have 5 or I have 30, and that's pretty much is how I run. I run the same thing. You're still a family, you're still a culture, you still have to all communicate, you still have to work in that room for however long, maybe 40 minutes, 80 minutes, whatever your classrooms are like.
I have one more question. How do you keep track of tickets? Do you have different colors?
The tickets, someone asked how do you keep track of tickets? Do they have different colors? Nope. I reuse the tickets over and over again. I have tickets that say ASL tickets right on them. It just is an ASL ticket. They have a baggie, and they're responsible for that baggie. They have classroom folders, so they can put them in their classroom folder. Sometimes people are paranoid and they put them in their backpack, but I don't really have an issue with people stealing tickets either. That's not a thing, because it's pretty obvious when you're going into someone else's stuff. Because I have classroom folders, and then they come to me like on Friday mornings. I'll be like, right in the morning, part of the din will be like, count your tickets, and they put them right back in my bin. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm like, okay, and I read it in my book. All right, Joe got 8. Once, and then that's an 80. That's an 80 for participation. So that's how I run that. Class roles are huge for anything that you do. And you want to make sure that there's at least a role for everybody and the type of group that you're doing, so everyone feels that they have a responsibility. Even if it's somebody who's not really strong in the language, they still have a role, okay? So here's some of the roles. We're going to get into this with our breakout session, but I have a scribe, the person who's writing down the information that the group is talking about. I have the leader, right? The one that kind of just runs the group and manages who can talk, when they can talk. And we talk about those though. We talk about how to be a good leader and how to run things, and so they're not just like, nope, you can't talk right now, but you can. No. I have a coach, so like someone to kind of guide others through, like someone's confused, like maybe that person is really good with the topic and they're going to help them. I have a speaker, so the person that voices for the group, because if I need to talk to like one group, then I'm like, all right, what did this group come up with? That person speaks. The teacher, whoever's the teacher of the day comes up and teaches the lesson. The runner, they're the one going back and forth with the materials. I have a team captain. That's more for like the game things. There's king and queens, which we'll talk about that activity. There's the expert, voice, and the cheerleader. So, all right. I'm going to show you guys a couple of games that I do with my students. Now, I only put clips together from my phone because I normally do these activities with you guys in a workshop, and I really break it down and we talk about how you can use the language with it as well. So for me, my students, obviously they just can't speak. They have to sign, they have to figure out how to communicate, gestures, whatever. If you want to teach them little words like this ball drop, like, what's the word for, you'll see they're going to kick the ball. What's the word for kick? What's for whatever? This may not be part of the curriculum at the time, but you need to do a community building activity. You're just going to throw them new words too with the language that you can say you can only use these 4 words, right? So that makes them learn how to work like more with each other too. So this is the ball drop. Look at this one. Okay, so a little chaotic because like I said, they're just clips from my phone, but what you do is you have a rope. Every student is holding the rope, and I say like you have to have one hand on the rope at all times. And then there are times, and they have to do it so many times and beat their time from going from point A to point B. Okay, so they all have their hand on the rope. I drop the ball in. The ball cannot leave the circle. The ball leaves, or the rope area, whatever. If it leaves it, they got to start over again, okay? So each time as a class together, they're collaborating and trying to beat their time. However, the competition comes to when it's my other classes. So they'll see all the other class times on the board. So they'll like try to beat each other on those when the certain activities, like what class is at the best time for ball drop right now? What class is at this, And then that's where the competition happens. But that's not conflicting my culture in my classroom because we're collaborating together, but they're competing against a different class. All right. Okay, so that's a glimpse at rock, paper, scissors, crown. So you guys saw I have desks lined up, right? You can do as many rows as you want, different levels. I'm gonna have all the directions for this for you guys too in the folder. You're gonna have multiple desks in a row for different levels depending on how you wanna do it. They flip a card, the person signs it. If they get it correct, they rock, paper, scissors, shoot to see if they can advance. So this is not necessarily about like who knows the most and who can get to the crown. It's more of a chance thing too. So if you saw that one girl didn't work out, the other kid was like, go back to the end of the line, right? And they can pick whatever, they still have to advance, but they can pick whatever line they want to start at. And usually kids will huddle around and pay attention because they want to get that crown, because I'll give out like little prizes too. And at that, so they're, because in the group, the words will rotate or the phrases will rotate, so then it gives them a chance to really get to know like how to sign it and sign it correctly. But then they might kind of get screwed over because they didn't win rock, paper, scissors, shoot, and they got to go back. So people will stand around and watch. If you have a large class, I always highly recommend them to kind of like stand around a little bit and watch, so the lines can see everybody and rotate through. Because then the kids who are not good at the language can still see and learn it. Same thing, like if they're sitting in the seat, I rotate those people out. And we've done it before. If you lose rock, paper, scissors, then you sit in that seat and like you can't advance. We've done that too. So there's different versions. But at the end, I have phrases on the board and they have to sign those phrases and they have to sign them correctly. And then if they sign it correctly, rock, paper, scissors, shoot. If they don't get it, even though they made it all the way to the end and they didn't win rock, paper, scissors, they go to the back. So I time that activity, and then whoever gets to the crown at the end wins. And you know, some people will lose the crown because somebody will win rock, paper, scissors, shoot. So it's not like, oh, that girl knows everything. Oh, she knows whatever. It's not that. It's a super repetitive with vocabulary that I want them to really make sure they know and know well, and rotate through. All right. And the last one is rope activities. I do tons of things with rope activities. This one, I'm sorry I didn't explain the other one before. You just have to have 2 hands on the rope the whole entire time. And then they had to, the only rule was no talking for me. They had to get themselves in birthday order. So you'll see that like some of them at first didn't even think about like holding the rope and signing, but they were still holding the rope because I said 2 hands on the rope and no talking, right? I did this with teachers, and when they did it, there was like, they could only use specific words. Like I had them come up with the activity because I don't teach a spoken language. So I'm like, here are your rules, and then come up with your words that you know that they can use to get them in order, all right? And it could be anything, any type of sequence stuff you're doing. Here it is. Okay, so that's, sometimes they'll take their hand off, but I just pretend I don't see it. Because the point is, they're working together, you know, because they try to be smooth about it too. But those are the activities that I was going to do with you guys. However, we can't. So quick questions, and then we're gonna go into breakout sessions, okay? And what I want you to do in your breakout session is kind of coming up with those activities, things I've talked about, and maybe those 3 activities. How could you change that into a virtual world or in a social distance environment? I know it's tough. So this is where I am the teacher, but I'm putting it on my students to teach me. So you guys are gonna come up with this stuff and teach each other. So, any questions?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do questions real quick and then, oh, perfect, thank you. Have you considered how you will adapt these routines in a possible hybrid schedule? Yeah, that's gonna be you guys. We're gonna do it together. Yeah, so exciting. Now what, okay, example of now what activities. Now what activities are just, I'm done with my work, so now what? What am I gonna do now? So I have a list of things that they can do. And they're not they're not like graded or extra credit or whatever. It's just an expectation that they're signing all the way through this like voice off thing. So the now what activities are going above and beyond. What do you do with students who don't earn 10 tickets in a week? They get whatever grade they have. So if there's not 10 tickets and they get 2 tickets, they get a 20%. All right, it affects their grade. It's my participation. That's how I do it. Besides my assessments, I mean, my assessments are more of the letter graded things, but that's pretty much how I run that. The whole entire class for the ball drop game, yes. So you saw I had some smaller classes, I had some bigger classes. It is so much fun when it's like 30 people. The ball gets like kicked out and gone crazy. I just warn my administration, like I'm gonna be in the halls and like it's just gonna get crazy. We have one hall though where there's not a lot of classrooms, so I can do that, but outside is good too. As long as you have a point A and a point B, that works really well. Have you thought about how you might do something like ball drop virtually? That's you guys too, yay! See, put it on the students. How do you encourage all students to play the game? Okay, so that is where I start the community and the positive building and team building and the cultural building right in the beginning. So I'm doing I'll put a list of like books and stuff for you guys too to look at. I'm doing team building activities without the language for the first couple weeks. And I have really found by doing that, they really excel in the language and they help each other in the language and they're willing to work with everybody because I am constantly doing those activities in the beginning. And it's really great because if you start it in the beginning, they're coming in and they might not know everybody in the class. So it's like a perfect time to like get everybody to start moving together, you know, and just do things. And even if it's just in a circle, starting with some type of activity in the circle and they don't want to make eye contact and they're looking down and not up or anything like that. But eventually, as the circles go on, they're gonna start looking at each other and they're building that respect and that trust without even realizing it. All right. Okay. And I think we're gonna go. Okay, so in your breakouts, Jenny's gonna break you guys out into groups of 6. I'm gonna give you guys about like 5 minutes and we'll be wrapping up right after this. I don't know, let's do, what time is it right now? How much time we have left, Jenny?
It's 10:53.
Okay.
So we have like 7 minutes left.
All right, well,
we're gonna do like 4 minutes or so?
Yeah, we can do that real quick. Yep.
Good?
Okay, so one person's gonna be the scribe, one person's gonna be the leader, one's gonna be the cheerleader. I know usually I give everybody one, but because it's virtual and this is a different type of world. So the person scribing, if you guys come up with a great activity, put it in the chat because I'm gonna collaborate and take all that stuff and put it into a document for you guys and throw it back out. So those activities, think about like how you could do it in a hybrid or online and put it down in the chat and we'll collect that together. The leader can just kind of be like, saying the person's name, like, oh, Amber, it's your turn. Samantha, what do you think? So that way it runs well. And then the cheerleaders are like, yeah, that was a great idea. Yeah, it's so cool. All right, go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, everybody. Save the scribing for coming back to the room so that everybody can see it in the common chat for the session, not the room. Have fun. Here they are coming back.
Hitting the pieces. Yes, it is so hard. That's why I'm using you guys. All right, so I did go in like complete panic mode when they were like, do you want to do a webinar on this? I was like, everything goes against COVID. But then I was like, you know what? This is great because there's so many of you. So Jenny told me there's like 69 right now, whatever, like an insane amount. And in Summer Institute, we don't even get anywhere near that amount of people. So I was like, this is a great time to reach out to everybody that does or teaches language, and we can utilize each other to come up with some new, cool, creative way or online. And I'm gonna put a plug in for the Summer Institute. If you guys have not gone, go. It's like camp for teachers. It's like the best thing ever. I felt like a little kid again because I'm like nerdy and like I just have to get all the new information to bring into my classroom, which is how I help keep the community going as well. But you meet so many awesome people that are doing the same thing as you from all over the state. All right. And then like you get to bounce off ideas and, you know, off of other people. And then all of a sudden people have these aha moments where they're like, oh my gosh, I could do it this way too, or I could tweak it like this, and everyone's like, oh my gosh. And I come home with like a big journal full of everything. And then I'm like fumbling through it all the time. So real quick, put in some information that you guys group talked about. I'm going to collaborate all that stuff, put it into a folder for you. So you're gonna have these slides. You're gonna have some other things I talked about, like I'll put information there of how to learn more about changing your mindset. There's some good things out there too about changing the culture in your classroom and in your school. Anthony Muhammad is like one of those books. Those books are the best. And so some things to kind of keep it going before we wrap up. I do shout outs on a regular basis. I have like little cards where kids can write shout outs to each other, and they can put them right up on my shout out board, right? So they have all those little different things. Sometimes I put shout outs like with exams, like if people did really good, like hundreds. One year, I never had anybody ever get a 100 in all the years. And last year I had 2 people get a 100 on my exam, and I was like floored. So like that was a shout out right on the door before they walked in, you know, but then it got moved to the wall. So the kids can give each other shout outs. I do the journaling. Like I said, I used to do journaling back and forth. Now I just do a piece of paper once a week. It's a little bit easier. Quotes all over, silent comments, praise, and effort rubric are the things that I kind of keep it all going when I'm not doing these activities. So questions, and then we're gonna wrap up. You have a question? No questions? All right.
Some good ideas though.
Got some good ideas, I heard. Yeah. Okay, so that's my email, and that is my Twitter account. I will admit, I was just saying I have not been very active on Twitter with the whole pandemic thing happening, because I was running around so much trying to find students. So, but there's a lot of videos, a lot of different community activities. If you go through my old stuff, you will see them. And feel free to email me. I've had people reach out, like, you know, there's an activity that they're looking for and want to try to make it community building. I've helped out with that as well. And the reason why my handle is Miss Buck, because that is what my students call me in the city. So it's been like that no matter what's going on, Miss Buck, because my last name's Buckley. So that
So cute.
is all I have.
Thank you,
Thank you
Brenda.
guys so much for taking the time to come out. This is my studio. I do online classes if you want to shake it, or, you know, work out, lift. There we go.
Brenda's taking up the wheels of Zumba instructing that I left empty at some point.
We do more than just Zumba.
You do. You've been doing a lot. Brenda, thank you so much. Thank you so much for presenting all that. That was so much. And in an hour, I know it's a lot to do in an hour. And I'm sure there's questions, which is why I keep reaching out on Twitter. If you email her, she said she is absolutely open to that. Thank you all for attending. We welcome and encourage your feedback. I'm going to drop in the chat box the link for our workshop evaluation so that you can provide feedback. It's really helpful if you do it now, right after the session, to sort of help us know what you liked or didn't. After the conference is when you'll fill out your form for your CTLE credit hours if you need that for your school. And that link was also in the document in the folder, as well as in the emails that you've received from us. Check out social media for challenges and questions all institute long. Share your responses. Don't forget about the Padlet that's available to you in the important links document as well. And see you at 1 o'clock for Bill and Joanne's workshop to dive deeper into the new state standards for Checkpoint A. And then at 3 o'clock, you can catch Mary G. Holmes with Culture and Comprehensible Input. Have a nice lunch. We'll see you later.